In this video, we're looking at managing capacity. And this comes down to actually controlling the number of tickets that are available for any event, or more specifically, an actual exhibition of an event. First thing we just want to revisit is the actual capacity of venues themselves, and we can see we have advertised capacity for this venue of 392. And that's what's shown when we actually promote the venue. It can be zero, and we don't promote the capacity at all. But where that starts to come into effect is when we start creating a seating plan from that venue. It will acquire that number and populate these two figures for us, which is the normal capacity, and that's just an indicator. Once again, it's just an indicator, but this sold out capacity is an actual number, because the normal capacity is not the actual capacity. The actual capacity is dictated by the number of seats that are actually available in a plan. And to illustrate that, we'll look at our standard plan here, and we'll see that there's actually 394 allocated seats available, even though our advertised capacity is 392. So you might think, well, where's that come from? And that's because we have these three sections. Now, the stage section is just a virtual section with no seats in it, but our lower section is 171, and our upper section has 223. And that's because the actual seats that are available in these rows, and as you would have seen from seeing the seating video, we can take various seats in and out. We can also disable entire rows, and we can disable entire sections, which will change the actual number of seats or tickets that are available under that particular plan. So if we look at this plan, this is what it looks like as it's visualized, because it's an allocated seating plan. And but of course it doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but you can see that that's actually what's dictating the actual the total capacity. So it's actually a very fluid sort of thing if we are really going in there and changing, pulling out seats for maybe some disabled seats, maybe some other seats that we're taking out because of cabling or a bio box or lighting or whatever. They're no longer available. But if we are actually considering doing say general exhibition seating, and we'll just create one here. You can see it's put 392, but we just might want 100, section of 100, and we're going to put 80 in as our sellout, which means by the time when it gets to 80, it's going to say sold out, and it's not going to let any members of the public book any further. We can do it because we're an administrator, but the public can't. Now we can just go save plan and create this very manually, or if we're going to save a lot of time, we just click the create non-allocated general seating plan option here, and that'll create that for us. It will create one general section. It only creates one. You can, of course, have multiple. You might say you're doing a rock concert and you've got like a mosh pit area at the front, which is general admission, and then you've got your another section behind that. You might actually have them as two separate sections that just have X number of tickets available, and you might price them differently. We'll show you how to do that as well. But here we've got just one single section, and under that we've got one virtual row. SEQ is just short for sequence. That's just what it's put in there. We could equally just put ticket number like that, and we've got 100 tickets available in that virtual row that are actually available, and that's it. That's all we're doing. Now, you might come along and go, oh, well, I've just hit my 80%. I need to change this. And you might go, well, I might up this to, say, 100, but I'm going to change my total allocation to 120. Now, if you do it there, that's all well and good, but it's not going to work, because all it's going to do is just up the capacity to, or rather sold out capacity to 100. So it's only going to open a further 80, because if you look at your the actual seating section here, you only have 100 seats available because your virtual row only has 100. So you have to up that to 120 as well to actually say, I'm changing the row configuration, or the virtual row group of seats, however you want to think about it, to 120. So that's the capacity. That's the capacity down at that level. Up here at the actual seating plan, that's the overall capacity for all of these sections and everything that is that has been set up. And it doesn't say that it's a hard stop, but it's a hard stop for the public. It means that they can't book beyond that, but we can, and it's just a way of reserving or indicating sold out at an earlier stage than 100%. So that's, I'm not going to keep this one. I'm actually going to delete this because I don't need this plan, because I have another one here that I've created. It's called restricted. And this again is general admission, and I've only got 10 seats available and 5 is my sellout. That's pretty extreme, but for the purposes of this, it serves the purpose quite well. If we look at our general, we've got our general sort of section here, 10 seats available, and that's because our virtual row has 10 available in it. So what do we do with this? Under events, we actually look at the event, and I've got this event here, 42nd Street. And if I pick the second to last show, there's only 2 remaining current shows here. All the rest have passed their exhibition date. But I look at this one, and I look at ticketing. You can see that this is bound to the Laycock Street Theatre standard ticketing plan. 392 is the advertised capacity. And we have our 2 sections. We have our lower tickets and our upper tickets, both of which have their respective tickets assigned. Both are the same, but they don't have to be. So this is where I was saying before, if you have different sections in your GA allocations, you can change the tickets. So if you want to sell, if you want to charge more for your mosh pit, you can do that. And that's not a problem. It just comes up as a different ticket. They buy it, they automatically get that section. But if we look at the 30th here, this one is allocated to the restricted, of which there's 10 available, 1 general section, and our 2 tickets are allocated to that, and that's it. That's all we've done. So how we are controlling capacity is with the actual set, with the row capacity within our sections and our plan. We attach the plan to an exhibition, and that's how when people buy the exhibition, they obviously get their pricing through the ticket, but they also get their allocation through the seating plan here. And that's really literally through that relationship with the exhibition and the plan is how you enforce your capacity on the booking end of things. So how does the booking end of things look? Well, if we go into the show and we skip down to tickets, we can see we've got 2 exhibitions here. The first one is highlighted for us, and this is our standard exhibition that we saw before. And we can see we've already got 3 bookings out of 394, which is our total actual seats. And we've got sold at 392, which of course gives us 391 available, which is 394 minus 3. And we're 0.8% sold. Now that's the view, we see this information, I'm just going to highlight it here, as an administrator. As long as we're an administrator of this show, we get to see that view of things. If we're not an administrator, then we will simply see that there is more than 50 available. That's all we see. Once we get less than 50, we'll start to see actual numbers of availability, but it's just telling us, hey, there's more than 50 available on this. You should be fine if you're booking a ticket. So we just go back to our administrator view here, and now we're going to click on the Monday the 30th, which is our restricted one, and we can see here we've booked 0 out of 10. It's sold at 5, so therefore there's 10 available, and we're 0% sold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy 5 tickets to that. Well, I'm not going to buy them. I'm just going to put them in my outbox here, my shopping cart, and I've got them. It's allocated them to me. It's all good, but I'm not going to check out just yet. And I'm going to go back into the show, and I'm going to book 5 more. But you'll see that it is sold out. I can't do it because we set the sold out at 5. So that's basically now saying you can't actually book any more. So how do we solve this? Well, we either book manually for the person on the phone, or we online, or whatever it happens to be, or we just go back in and we look at that particular seating plan, which is our restricted one here, and we can see that we've got 10 available, sold out 5, and all we have to do is change that. Let's just change it to 8, right? Change it to 8. We haven't changed the overall allocation, all right? We haven't changed the fact that there's 10. We've simply just upped it to 8. And now we go back in, we look at the show here, and we jump to tickets, and guess what? There's tickets available. So if we look at our I won't bother switching back views again, but just to distinguish this is that it's saying it's sold out at 8, so there's only 3 available here. So when I'm a member of the public, it'll just show me 3 available. So it's actually telling me based on the sold out number. It's not lying and saying, well, it's not saying there's 5. It's actually being more truthful to say, what are you likely to get, which is 3. Now, what's interesting here is that that they can actually book 5. They can actually do it. It tells them it's only 3, but it will let them exceed, but obviously it won't let them exceed the total, because if I try to book 10, see what happens. It's going to say up here, sorry, there were no available seats for this booking, but I still have my other one here of 5 ready for checkout. So when I actually pay, it's going to charge me the $240. It's going to ignore this booking, but it's going to let me try again. So, and just to show you how this works, because there's a little bit of a fudge factor in this to allow a bit of flexibility with booking. So there's only really 3 available, but I'm going to book another 4, and we'll just see what happens with that. It's going to let me do it. And that's because when I started the booking, it was under. This booking pushes me over, and now I've got it, but and there was no indication that I could do that. It only said there was 3 available, but I asked for 4. And when I go back in now, we will see that this is now sold out again. And we can, it's not even letting us click it, which is why I'm clicking on it there and nothing's changed. We can only select that exhibition that's up here. And obviously when I go back to my checkout, I can see the failed one has now disappeared, and I just have my 2 that I have, and I might just go, I'm just going to cancel that one. I don't want that one anymore. And now when I go back into my show and go to tickets, it is it's available once again because I cancelled. Just to explain what's happening up here, we've still got just under 12 minutes to go. This will eventually time out, and then those tickets will be released after a couple of minutes after timeout back into the pool, and they'll be available again. But for the moment, they're taken, and the system is then restricting what I can actually buy here for this show. So I hope that gives you an indication of how you can control your ticket inventory for shows, how you can then, I could literally just go back into that show and go, you know what, I'm going to just, 10's a bit is not enough. It's not enough at all. And remember, I can change it here to 20, and I might go change that there to 18, but unless I actually also change it at the row level here to 20, it won't change what's actually available. I've only changed like the conceptual availability for that show. And now when of course I go in, I've opened up capacity, and I'm good to go with quite a bit more capacity for 5 out of 20. You might ask yourself, well, what about if you wind it down again? Well, all that does is just stops any more bookings. Any bookings that are in the system are not affected by you actually changing the capacity or pulling seats out. They still book that seat, even if you go in and say that that seat is no longer available in the system, or you pull it out. You have to deal with that. You either have to call them up and say, look, I'm going to rebook your tickets, or whatever, but they've booked that ticket. It was available at the time when they booked it. So that is capacity. I hope you got your head around that. It's actually quite simple. It's all literally controlled under the venue, under the seating plan, under the section, at that virtual row level. Whether it be real rows or virtual rows, that's where you control how many actual seats or ticketed seats that you can actually sell. Thanks for watching.